Christ is born.
Glorify him.
Brothers and sisters, I hope that all of you have a very beautiful and wonderful feast today. It is one of the greatest of our feasts, and this gospel is so appropriate. Perhaps we don't think that way, but it is so appropriate for today. For two reasons. One is that it's almost as if the birth, which we kind of expect to be the focus of today's feast, of today's service, the birth has already happened. It's already in the past. And so if we wanted to celebrate the birth, in a sense, we had to be here last night when that was the focus of the service. And today is after that. And what comes after Christ's birth? But immediately the struggle, the strife, the difficulty, the conflict that erupts in his life, in the life of his parents, as Herod begins to look to destroy him. And the family has to escape to Egypt. And why is this so fitting a story? Because Christ came, and it's hard for us because we have all the romantic imagery of his birth and the creche scenes, all of the things that tug at our heart. But Christ came to suffer. He came into the world precisely to suffer. And the suffering, there's no delay. There's no little, time ahead of time where everything can be cheerful and rosy, and it can play into those images that we have from our childhood and that we cultivate in our society. His birth was not a comfortable or a pleasant thing. It was a very difficult thing. And it occurred under very harsh circumstances. And then immediately they have to escape, so they become refugees. And we don't identify them that way. But that's what they are. They are refugees, and they are fleeing the place of their people, their birth, their nation, to another place where they are foreigners. Oh, can you imagine this? But why is this not a problem? It's never a problem for us as Christians when we have to encounter suffering, because life itself is somehow connected to suffering. The word passion, which is a very powerful theological term that we encounter over and over again in the spirituality of the church. The word passion means pathen. It means to suffer. It means to enter into the existence of suffering and this quality of our existence, which involves change, growth, maturation, and our struggle with our health and in our older age, the things not working correctly in our bodies. All of this is part of the human condition. And it is this human condition that Christ came to remedy. He came to address the problems with it. And we see in the news right now, right? We see plenty of examples of Christians who are suffering. They're suffering. There was a terrible incident in Germany with a crazed individual who drove a car into a Christmas fair and killed some number of people. The Christians are suffering in Gaza in absolutely bleak and horrific circumstances. Christians are suffering in Syria. Just the other day, there's potential for great harm to come to them in Syria. We don't know what's going to happen in the near term. Christians are fighting against each other in Ukraine, and regardless of all of the rationale for and against this, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible suffering that they are encountering. So we see and in many other places as well. But for Christians, when we see this, it's never really the kind of problem that we imagine it to be. It is in a sense part and parcel of our existence to suffer and to have conflict and to struggle. And so when Christians are in the midst of suffering, at least it's not a theological problem. It's obviously a grave problem for those who are in the midst of it, who are trying to survive. But for us, in terms of our understanding of the world and of our role in the world, suffering is never a problem. It is, in fact, precisely the way in which we must go. And the biggest problem for us as Christians is when we convince ourselves that because we are Christians, we are somehow exempt from suffering, and that our lives should be better because we are Christians, that God is on our side, and that he is going to bless us and make our lives more comfortable and more peaceful. This is, in a sense, a false Christianity. It is a complete misunderstanding. If anything, God calls us to be divided from our families, to be at odds with them, to be at war with ourselves, to be in the midst of this encounter with our flesh, which, as St. Paul says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. To be in the midst of this existential crisis where the things that we want to do, we don't do, and the things that we don't want to do, we end up doing. And we know that it is destructive to who we are. We know that we are constantly being asked to disown ourselves and our Creator, who gave us life itself. So the fact that Christ's birth immediately leads into his situation where he and his parents have to flee and become exiles, in a sense, is totally appropriate because of the work which he is called to do, and that is the same work to a certain sense. In a certain sense, it is the same work that we are called to do. We are not called to save ourselves, but we are called to be saved and to allow God's grace to transform us and to transfigure us so that the sufferings that we will inevitably encounter don't have any meaning for us. And the one who gave us the greatest example of this in the most recent time is Alexei Navalny, who showed in the prison cell in which he was held as a captive that they could not destroy his spirit. They could not destroy the joy and the peace and the freedom that he enjoyed because of his Christian faith, despite subjecting him to all sorts of brutal treatments. He was beyond them because he had climbed that ladder that is in his soul and had united earth and heaven. That is the work of the Christian. And that is the work that today heralds the great moment of our salvation, when God becomes man, takes on our flesh, enters into the changing world in order to save it. Amen. Christ is born.
Glorify him.
Let us say